Hello and welcome. In today's video, we're going to focus on a classic synthesizer feature known as chord memory. Chord memory is commonly found on polyphonic synthesizers, and although the Matriarch doesn't contain a chord memory function, there's a few different ways to achieve the same effect using the features of the Matriarch. To explain, chord memory allows us to input a chord shape and be able to play that chord back from a single key, as well as transpose the chord around the keyboard. To do this on the Matriarch, there are a few approaches to take, the first of which uses 4-voice mode in the Paraphony section. We're going to look at the sequencer and make sure that the sequencer's rate is turned as slow as it will go, and I'm going to put the sequencer into record mode. Now I'm going to record a single step containing a major 7th chord that has the notes C, E, G, and B. Now that the chord is in the sequencer, I can hit play, and when I play the keyboard, I'll be able to hear a chord memory effect. Now there are a few caveats to approaching chord memory this way, the first of which is having to sacrifice the functionality of the sequencer. The second is if I play a key and hold it, I can hear my chord repeat at the rate of the sequencer, and so my playing style would have to account for this. A more flexible way to approach chord memory on the Matriarch uses the 1-voice mode in the Paraphony section. For this, what we're going to be doing is focusing on the oscillator section, so let's make sure that each oscillator is tuned to the same octave. The frequency knobs for oscillators 2, 3, and 4 are set to noon, giving us a unison, and all 4 waves are set to a sawtooth. What we're going to be doing is tuning each oscillator to be a different note in the chord. So oscillator 1 will be C, oscillator 2 will be E, oscillator 3 will be G, and oscillator 4 will be B. Let's start by tuning oscillator 3 to G, as this is the easiest to achieve. To do this, we're going to turn the frequency knob up clockwise to the top of its range. One thing that's important to note is that the frequency knob ranges can be altered in the internal settings, but the default behavior for the Matriarch allows us to tune up a fifth or down to a perfect fourth below the root note. Next, let's look at tuning oscillator 2 to E. For this, I'm going to tune the frequency knob on oscillator 2 about halfway up its range clockwise. As you can hear, that gives us a major triad of C, E, and G. So finally, let's tune oscillator 4 to the B above C. To do this is slightly more tricky because, as I mentioned, currently our frequency knobs are set to go a fifth up, but I need to go up to B, which goes beyond that. So to do that, I'm going to set oscillator 4 an octave above the other 3, and I'm going to use the frequency knob to tune the note downwards. As you can hear, we now have the same chord that we used in the earlier example. Now, doing chord memory on the Matriarch offers certain flexibilities that aren't commonly found on a polyphonic synthesizer, that being that each oscillator is able to have independent settings from each other. This allows us to do creative things with our chord voicing, like spread it out or create inversions of the chords by using the octave settings. So let's listen to how that sounds. It's also important to note that tuning these oscillators by ear might be a tad bit difficult, and another way is to use the wave outputs on each oscillator with a guitar tuner to confirm the notes of each oscillator. Another flexible thing that we can do with the Matriarch that we can't do with other synthesizers is set each note of our chord to be a different wave shape from each other. So to end, I'm going to record a short sequence using chord memory, and let's listen to how it sounds in practice.